Yeah, tomorrow we take it outside. Old school, good.
No. Sorry.
Have we seen enough of each other this week? Have we seen enough of each other this week?
Never. It's gonna happen. Like 5 minutes and then.
Be able to put up the entry side.
We're gonna do a call for service.
Well, how are you? It's good. It's almost you too. We were going to be on much of the three of us, sure. I can make sure like that, but somebody say somewhere that would.
Good thing you are.
Complicated issues. Very convoluted, right?
I started with environmental stuff.
Okay, so then we will start. I don't think we have a couple here, but I will use this. This is the special meeting from April 16, 2026, convening at 3:33 p.m. Madam City Clerk, can you do please roll call?
Councilmember Bregman. Councilmember Nakanishi. Councilmember Craig Hensley. Here. Mayor Pro Tem Hothi.
Here.
Mayor Yopez.
Here. So first we'll start with open for public comments.
No, actually.
Oh, you're gonna first your
You
presentation?
started a little bit, and then we're gonna break it up here, so we'll go ahead and get live. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for being here, especially on the end of a very long week for us at City Hall. It's been budget week. It's been full. We had a council meeting, went a little bit late last night, so I'm very grateful that you're here this afternoon to go through the city council strategic vision and priority setting discussion. And so next slide, please. So why are we here? And at this time of the day before going into the weekend for some of us? We're here because I need your help. I know that you guys have been investing a lot of time, energy, and resources into this particular document this far. Even as recent as February, I think it was this year, where you took another look at the strategic plan, updated it, fine-tuned it a little bit. But I need your help to go to that next level, because now that we're into the budget season, and now that we're talking about where we're allocating resources and where we want to go specifically, I need your help to help refine what special things do you want us to be working with. Okay, and so you're gonna see a lot of this stuff for the second, third, fourth time. But what I'm hoping we can accomplish today is really ratchet down to some specifics so that we can take it to that next level. So because we have some members of the audience or members of the public in the audience tonight, I'm just gonna give you a quick overview. You guys are very familiar with your strategic vision and all, but just kind of build those building blocks. What's it for? Why do we do this sort of thing? Because I can tell you, in my role as city manager and other agencies, it's very, very helpful resource if we use it properly. And again, especially as we go into budget season, it's also very helpful. So we'll give an overview, then we'll talk about the next steps that I want to get there. Then I'm gonna go old school on you guys. And so you got your colored dots. I'll reveal the board here momentarily, and then you guys get to get up and get, physical, don't box each other out, please, that are HR's present. And so we need you to identify your priorities. Then I'm gonna come back and give a reality check of how that fits in with what's really happening as well. In terms of our budget, in terms of other challenges and priorities that I believe that we have as well that you have highlighted for us. We'll talk about the budget implications, funding needs, and different options to help with those funding needs. And then I'm gonna take a risk and introduce some themed priorities for your consideration. And I'll explain that later as we get to it. And then finally, I'm gonna have one more dot exercise where we whittle it down to, this is the game plan. My hope is that by doing that, I will help you, help us, and your new city manager, whenever they get here, to come in and just say, for the next fiscal year, this is what our focus is. Above and beyond everything else, I mean, because everybody in this room has plenty of work on their plate. But this is the stuff that we need you to tell us. I want you to go above and beyond. I want you to spend more resources, time, and energy on that. Because we want to be able at the end of the year to say, where are we at? Did we achieve that? And how do we go on to the next item? Okay, so with that, real quick, see, we should have had to touch the TV screen. Okay, hopefully everybody can see this.
We'll tell PD next time.
Oh, you
can.
This way good.
All right, the components of a strategic vision, they start with your strategic priorities, and those include the stretch goals. And you should have a copy of those. They're right here in the middle, and I know I couldn't see those, so that's why we made handouts of those, so you have that. So those are the stretch goals that the council identified. We don't need to really get into that. Then we have the next level is strategic milestones, and I'll reveal those to you momentarily, but those are kind of the pieces that you're going to do work for. Those are your objectives that actually make those big picture goals at the 30,000 foot level. Make them more manageable, make them more realistic, because, you know, when you look at some of these goals, be the best you can be. Okay, well, what does that mean? I'm gonna ask 15 people and get 35 answers. Right, so the milestones help us take it down to that next level of, okay, now we're starting to build and shape that clay to make it look something more tangible that we can start drafting the work plan. And then finally, the implementation strategies. Those are the things that you do. Those are your tasks. Those are your deliverables that we measure things against, right? Those are the things that get into department specific performance measures, okay? And so that's something that staff does based on what you tell us. I remember the first time I met you folks, in the interview here, you told me, you know, we talked about the strategic plan a little bit. And you said, how do I view that? He said, well, you tell me where you want to go and I'll help you get there. Just give me the keys and I'll get you there. So that's kind of what this is all about, right? And you have a talented, committed group of people on your staff that are ready to go. We just need to know what direction we're going, okay? So lastly, the strategic vision, just so the audience understands, provides the foundation upon which the city manager and department heads base their resource allocations to build work plans. These work plans are going in our budget, they're going in our performance measures and so forth. So this is they detail the implementation strategies. And again, those will be included in this year's budget going forward, okay? That's what we call a performance-based budget. And I'm not gonna offer it up here because I'll leave that up to the council. But where I've been before, I've actually used that as part of my evaluation. You guys get to hold me accountable to, am I making that happen? Because if I'm not, what am I doing? Okay, next slide. Here's just another way to look at it, but the key thing looking here is that, again, those implementation measures, those are the foundation that you build on. That's the grunt work. The milestones are the kind of the mid-level, you know, picture of it, and then ultimately the goals. But what I wanted to share here is that you have 8 goals and 41 milestones. That's a lot. Even bigger than that is the number of strategic implementation measures. There's over 140. Those are things that when I got here, I asked staff to take a look at your objectives and milestones and say, okay, let's update this because there's been some things on there that in my mind didn't really fit, didn't make a lot of sense. But let's make these into real implementation measures, not that we're gonna, you know, walk the dog or we're gonna feed the cat. No, we're doing specific tasks that, you know, relate to these milestones and goals. So with that, let's see. Next one. Now we get to public comment, and then I'll pick it back up after that.
Okay, we will open the public comments.
So Mayor, we're not utilizing comment cards today, but you're welcome to invite members of the audience to stand up and provide their public comment. And I have a timer that I will start for 5 minutes.
All right, I will invite the audience if they would like to provide public comments at this moment. Seeing none,
Okay, I'll take it back over then. No, don't put that out. Go back to public comment. I should have had a transition slide. Okay, so as I mentioned, we're gonna start with the strategic goals that you can see here. Okay, hopefully everybody has those, so if you can't read this, you have it. What I wanted to do next though is get into the milestones, okay? The milestones again are the objectives. And this is where the rubber meets the road and we need your help to tell us what you want to go. Okay, so bear with me for a moment. We'll do the big reveal. And if you want to hand those out to the council, anybody who wants it. Because again, I can't see through that everyone. So as you receive these, do me a favor. Take a look at them across the different milestones. and see if there's any, thing that you wanna highlight, anything that jumps out at you. And I'm asking you to do this because we need to get real familiar with these over the course. Yes, ma'am.
So one of my questions is, for example, under downtown, we have implemented downtown specific plan. The next 4 items are in the downtown specific plan. So I would say the same thing with the economic development plan. So what are you asking us to prioritize the other items? Or do we just say, let's implement the downtown plan and then leave it up to staff to prioritize based on what we have indicated elsewhere? How do you want to do that?
Are you trying to make this a 20-minute meeting? No, you're absolutely right. But we'll get to that. So for this exercise right now, I'm not looking for you to prioritize anything of these just yet. That comes in a few minutes. What I'm looking for here is just look at the complexity or the broadness, the variability. Because again, and I'm just gonna be, full disclosure, there's a lot up here. And it's hard to manage, would be the first thing I would say. And the second thing I would say is that this is at a minimum a 5-year plan. Right? Where my last strategic plan that I did, in a city twice the size, about twice the size. 5 goals, 8 objectives. And then 21 implementation. Okay, now that's not a criticism by no means, that just means this is why we're here, because I need your help to say. Absolutely, what is critical to you, and I will say at this point. This exercise is extremely important when we're talking about budget implications, and normally this would tie into that hand in hand. I think I told you again, our first meeting, that in my mind, in my experience, if a priority is not in the budget, it's not a priority. Right? It's just sitting on the sideline. But I will tell you, unfortunately, this week we've gone through department budgets. And there's not a lot of discretionary income that's gonna be available to go work on one of these. So what we are able to allocate though is staff resources to work on specific projects. Okay, so to your point. Yes, we will explore what this means, but right now, that's kind of that exercise. I just want everybody to see that you have big things like this, implement the downtown plan. Well, I'll cover more about that in a moment. But then you have things like, allocating in some kind of mandates. So that's kind of broad and open. This one is big. And some of these are just real broad. Okay? Anything else jump out? It doesn't have to. But I'm gonna ask you to, in the next minute, to pick whatever dot you want, cover dot, as long as you do
So I have a question.
Sure.
And maybe it's a little bit of a topic, but it's not related. So the land annexations and things like that are hitting housing. Is that kind of what we
Could be,
could be?
could be.
And how about customer service?
Well, it's specifically called out under number 8.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah.
That's when those favorite.
Yes, sir.
It sure seems to me, since as you said, we really should only have about 5 goals, that we have too many goals. So should we first start by prioritizing these goals and then
So-
go to
I think I shared with a couple of you that I've been wrestling with this all week. Because we're not starting from ground zero on this. I'm not the consultant in here trying to, earn my consulting fee on a dog and pony show. And so I'm really trying to get down to the final implementation step for this next fiscal year. And as I'm going over maturations of this and different iterations of it, at first I was thinking about picking your top 4 goals. But the exercise I'm going to try to do later that I was talking about on the objectives with the themes, I risk losing the effect of that if I take out any goals right now. So I'm going to ask you to play along with me a little bit, because I think at the end, you're probably already there, but for everybody else, I'm walking through the process as quickly as we can. So if you're ready, take the two color dots. You can all use the same color or use different ones and mix it up however you want, but you only get to pick two of your tops of milestone, whichever one you want.
So only two, right?
Yes,
To be clear, we're choosing the letter.
yes, the letters, thank you. Don't worry about the goal, just the milestone. Tell you what, these cameras out here, you can do 3.
Good.
Yeah, already give stuff away.
Question,
Yes, sir.
you can put 3 of those in one spot?
If you feel that there's 1 out of 41 that deserves all 3 of your votes, go for it. But I'm giving you the
How
opportunity.
about the down?
Yeah, so I'm asking you to put 3 dots on any of these letters under these numbers. Okay? So like if fiscal health revenue is important to you, then you would put your dot on that. No, you can put them on 3 individual ones. But if you, again, if you feel real strong about 1 out of 41, you can put all 3 dots on that one.
So only 2 in all the categories, right? Not in each category. Right?
I gave you 3.
Oh, 3, right?
So you get 3.
Okay, and then all the categories. Okay.
And you probably wonder, why am I being so chintzy about it? Well, because I'm trying to make sure that we get a manageable workload as opposed to, you know, just something that's uncontrollable.
Yeah.
3. That's the green now.
You just go all green.
That's why you have 3 too, so.
I see for something.
Let's use the same color, so that way the audience doesn't know who's here to fly. Now, hopefully I only count 12 dots when they're all done.
Okay, we split up in half.
Wow. Hanging chance.
I admire it, that's.
That's out of the box thinking right there. Good thing we didn't have bigger dots, it would have been in fifths.
Well, you know,
What is the here?
no, that's the goals.
You don't get that.
Yeah, no, that's these right here, so don't worry about those.
That's my call.
I'm gonna admit to you that this was a bit risky for me because usually you try to keep it in control. And I just opened it wide open to you guys, and look what happened, I got
I think
hacked.
so.
3. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 12. All right, thank you. Hopefully that was painless. Okay, so what do we end up with? We've got policies to revitalize, revitalization of buildings. Implement the economic development strategic plan. This one got 2 annexations. Diversified revenue mix. Ensure that elected leaders and staff retain focus on fiscal priorities. Address deferred maintenance. Full staff parks to annual benchmarks. We have a half growth for development and maintaining a sports recreation facility. Public safety, full staffing, building strategic partnerships, and then advanced training programs. And then down here, a customer center focus customer service center focus, delivery of services. Okay, so that was painless, I hope, and it reveals a lot. About where we're thinking. Now, what I wanted to do next is because. This is by itself important, but I also need to share with you some of the other realities of what we're dealing with in terms of other elements. It was mentioned that, okay, here's the downtown specific plan. And here is the economic strategic plan. Okay? Council has invested significant dollars and time and energy into these two documents. And even though this one didn't get me bullets, I'm just guessing, you know, when we bring it to you for approval, I'm hoping that you're expecting us to move forward with it. In whatever capacity that looks like, okay? I will tell you that it just, that particular document, discussion went to your downtown steering committee this week. And your committee members are all fired up and ready to go. It's scheduled to go to planning commission May 13th. And then come to council in June. 3, 4, 5. Are you adding?
June 3rd.
Okay, June 3rd. Okay. So that will be coming to you. So there's, when you look at this, again, there's big projects here that sometimes require a lot of money to have. Then there's other things, and let's see. Expand, develop to meet or exceed community needs. I'm not sure what that is just yet, right? Then there's other ones where we absolutely need policy direction from you. You know, in terms of, where was it? Expand economic opportunities along the I-5 corridor. You know, granted, that's part of the economic development strategy, but that is a policy decision. So some of these things, well, another way of saying it is, some of the stuff up here is stuff that your departments are already doing every day or every other day. Okay, for example. And if you don't feel that that's the case, I will assure you that becomes a practice. Okay. Even this one down here. These are what I would call values, core values of the organization. And as your CEO of your business, I'm just like any other business owner, that's gonna be my daily work plan. Customer service, making sure I have, you know, managing my money right. Okay, so that's where I'm saying that these have a variety of different levels. But because they're still important, how do you accomplish all of that? And the answer is, you know, we can't unless we think a little bit differently, kind of like the half document. Now, the other thing that we need to wrestle with is, if you can go to the next slide. This is an excerpt from the economic development strategy. There's one back here. So not only do we have 41 objectives here or milestones, this document right here, this has 5 strategy categories, and it has 3 different deliverables: year 1, year 2, year 3. It has 35 year 1 deliverables. For Luis, who's in a spa right now, resting up to get ready to deliver on all 35 of those. So that's another reality of this one simple little item. So it has these under it as well, but it also has in the first year 35. Conversely, or similarly, next slide. This is something you'll see in the downtown specific plan. This is the implementation action plan. Similar process. Regulatory actions, there's plenty of them. Well, thankfully, we were able to talk to them and change it from year 1, year 2, year 3, because downtown specific plans, in my experience, and I've done 5 of them, they don't happen as fast as a greenfield specific plan along those lines, because you'll see over here that the potential funding sources for the majority of these are general funding. Well, that right there kind of slows things down. But you're also in need of partnerships. Unlike greenfield specific plans, does everybody know what I mean by greenfield specific plan? It's a big area out there that actually possibly part like the annexation. But you're doing a specific plan, a master plan, whatever you want to call it, on a greenfield property, very large size, that is privately owned, but they come in and partner with the city to do a specific plan and so forth, but it's privately funded. Whereas the downtown plan, it usually starts with city funding, okay? But anyway, so we have near term. We have 25 of those in the downtown plan. So within the first couple of years, there's an expectation, certainly among the steering committee members, that we're gonna be checking those off soon. Okay? So that's one reality of my responsibility, looking, all the directions that staff is being pushed to potentially, okay? It's still important. Now, the other one, next slide, please. Oh, perfect. I did that on purpose. You can't see the big number. Funding. Thank you. As part of the exercise, I think you had in February, it was presented to you in, I think, a little bit of a different manner. And as I put all the implementation strategies together for the milestones, they're in there as well, to specific line items. But just to give you a real quick overview, based on what we currently know, we need one-time funding of 51 million. The vehicle replacement fund, 5 million, facility maintenance logs, 17 million and change. And there's the categories there, park rehab and upgrades, 28.5 million. Some of these things are further along in terms of need than others. But the reality is that as I looked at your budget last year, and there was a list of the deferred maintenance items, we haven't been putting money aside for deferred maintenance for years. And there's no plan going forward to put that. So this is what I would call an opportunity that we need to, be looking into. And that's just a one-time money. Then to keep things going on an annual basis, just under 5 million. Okay. And, again, I've asked our team and they've been very diligent on looking at things. But what I asked them to do is tell me, what could be a $500,000 problem this year that is going to turn into a $2 million problem next year. We're not sure that we have any of those just yet, but there could be. And if at all possible, that's not a healthy or stress-free way to live. It's just, I think I shared with you all the way I'm looking at the budget is your personal home budget, right? And so I won't bore you with that analogy again, but you have competing demands for your dollars. And so, do we go to Disneyland or do we fix the roof? And so those are the kind of conversations that we need to talk about. So now, having killed the mood of the room, I did want to show this. This. It's moving. Then now we need to move it again. Okay. This is just something that is another different way of looking at something that I think you've, heard or seen before. Options. And that kind of goes right here on, there it is. Diversified revenue mix. And so I put up here in a different way of showing it that, with the conservative approach, which means we just stay status quo. Okay, and so next year, we're doing Groundhog Day again with budget. And your new city manager is telling you that instead of 52 million, it's now 53 million or 54 million or whatever. And so that is option one. Option two is a moderate adjustment. So maybe a limited new revenue or reallocation, phasing different priorities, a phased approach, and that plays in nicely with the theme method that I'm going to bring up in a second. And then just the implementation. Now, some ideas that might fit into that, you did one last night. And thank you. We're grateful and appreciative of that. And we need to find more of those. And that's for the public. We brought to the council the idea of the credit card fees that were being assessed as the provider. We're subsidizing $1.2 million in credit card fees. I'd much rather put that in any one of these projects here. Okay. We need to find more. Another one that I'm meeting with utilities on soon. Don't know exactly what will come out of that. And I don't know the council's appetite for it, but this could be, you know, that proverbial low hanging fruit, but it could be a poison apple. And I'm gonna find that out for you with Jeff and his team's help, you know, soon, and we'll bring that back for a conversation. Okay? Because that, while it's a one-time thing, it may have some long-term implications as well, but that's some serious money. Now finally, getting crazy, the green light, new revenue strategies, finance, taxes, fees, different implementation of priorities. You've seen these before, and I'm just putting an updated dollar value. DOT increases, we're very low in the region. That has a potential for, you know, anywhere from $250,000 to $1.5 million annually. Business license tax, 1.1 to 3.7 annually. Sales tax, again, you're kind of middle of the pack. And so is that an opportunity? Then the one on the bottom, which I don't know if you can see very well, there's other creative ways of financing things, especially if you start talking about going into new growth areas. Okay. And I'll talk more about those in a minute, but I'm certainly not suggesting, and again, full disclosure, I understand that this is an election year, and I'm not suggesting we start talking about raising taxes, especially in today's economy. But if there's any thought or interest in doing that, this takes lead time to plan. I mean, a good 8 months to 12 months, if not longer. This,
I think, like I've shared this with you guys, that I think we need to revisit that, like maybe focusing on zero that the next few years, we need to definitely increase that. The tax increase. At some point, we're not gonna be solvent and we need to. Increase that.
yes,
And you'll get to the other financing mechanisms like you and I talked about the other day, tips and like, but. How about the concept of public-private partnerships? Because,
that's sprinkled all over this.
okay, that's what I'm trying to look for, that we really need to partner with the private sector on some of this in order to get some particular annexation areas, obviously, but that's kind of what I'm interested in hearing about is as we move forward, not necessarily what
Right.
the ideas are.
Right. And I know you guys know this about my resume, but for the public, I have 37 years in community development. And worked for some jurisdictions that were very successful with it, and it was because they adopted the philosophy that it's a partnership. I can't build buildings that are not, you know, public buildings, right? We build the courtyard and that kind of stuff. But in terms of the stuff that people come to live, work and play and you know, enjoy, I need help. We need help. And so it absolutely is a public-private partnership. Downtown is definitely got to be a public-private partnership. And that can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. We don't have money to give, but even if I did, I would suggest to you that that's not the best way to help the project all the time. Because that right there adds prevailing wage, which is nowadays probably upwards of 40–45% to the course of the project. But going over here to this item, which I know the mayor is very focused on, I didn't want you to put that done, I promise. But I know that we've talked about it, is that if I can tell a landowner or a builder that I'm gonna give you a fair, timely, consistent, no surprises, predictable process, I guarantee you, every jurisdiction I work, that's worth more than money. Okay, and so by working on that, and that's why I'm saying that I'm giving you that, that's a freebie. Okay, because I can't run a successful business if I'm not taking care of my customers. And believe it or not, and I don't know why, but some jurisdictions that I've been in and others that I've visited, they don't understand that concept that they're in the customer service business. And, you know, when they say, oh, they can go someplace else, well, they do. And then you're losing out on all the, you know, the ripple effect of income. So we absolutely want to do that. To your point. Okay. So anyway, those are some options. One thing that I think that we can do a better job of staff to help prepare for this is promote what we're doing with Measure L better. To show this is where it's going, this is what you're getting. Think of what we can do with more. I will set up, honestly, it's like, you know, we're being good stewards with it, we're putting it to good use. And, you know, boy, just look at all of our need here and what we could do with more. Because if we try to go out with one of these and they're like, well, where's my money going now? That's a mistake on our part. And that's on my part, if I didn't correct that. All right, what do I have next? Hopefully nothing revealing. Perfect. Okay, leave that back up there. Okay, so my thought going forward is with those elements, the, you know, the extra deliverables of these two documents, the desire to go across all of the goals and objectives. How do we simplify this and get the biggest bang for our buck? Doing more with less. The fact that I have no money to spend on specific projects. So unfortunately, and everybody in this room from the city was told on things like, you know, with staff, I don't have the ability to give any positions. I just don't. So I can't do that. But, and I mean this with all the most respect to our team in public safety. But this, I don't know a chief in public safety that's not always pushing for these things every day. They don't need to be told to do this. They're always looking for the best training opportunities that people train to keep us safe. They're always looking for opportunities for partnerships. And so I mean that as a compliment. And I guess what I'm saying is, well, I think that one can take care of itself at the same time.
One thing that we've had on the list forever is the training facility. So the EVOC facility is a capital project that is a little bit different than your, you know, regular training. So there's one big capital project on there. And congrats to PD and fire for getting ALS and chief for getting himself almost fully staffed up.
That's what I'm saying. You got motivated chiefs.
But I will say that is the one thing on all of that is it's just been an ongoing issue of trying to fund it. So I would want to see at least that.
Well, and that's a great point. And I will tell you that, you know, that's where this exercise is important because we're not gonna have a final list as we don't think today, okay? And I should have said that at the beginning because what I'm trying to do is whittle it down to categories. And then the objective would be for me to take your findings, your direction, package that up and come back to you at a future meeting, make sure we're on the same page. And then we'll turn that into something, and I'll talk about that more. But yeah, so let me move on to the next thing real quick. Do we have those handouts? So.
Yeah, I have the oldest guys here. Oh, sorry. But he has an excuse, okay? That's his profession, so his eyes look from
right.
so.
Wow, that is tough to read. Okay, I'm suggesting just for consideration, because of everything that you're talking about, all the challenges that we have. But the fact that we have 41 objectives, milestones that go across different goal ideas. How do we bundle that? Because when you start looking at stuff, I think the mayor mentioned it in terms of housing, okay? Housing. Oh man, housing didn't get anything. Housing's everywhere sprinkled in some of these other objectives, right? And to your point, kind of like this one here and this one here. All I have to do for this. So if that doesn't bleed through to you, I'm sorry. It's housing element, right? We approved the housing element by law. But I guarantee you, A through F is covered in the middle. Okay, so this one, you know, I'm giving away the answers. But when I ask you to vote on the themes. I have to do this whether you tell me to or not. Now, if there's something in here that is uber important, say for example, we're being approached by a developer, going back to that private partnership, public partnership. Good luck, buddy. And they say, I can build you an amazing 200-unit affordable housing project downtown. That's gonna be a catalyst project for downtown, but I need your help. Well, I'm guessing maybe you tell me, okay, Aaron, figure a way to make that happen, because that's gonna hit our reading numbers, that's gonna be a catalyst project for downtown, that's gonna bring economic development, that's gonna help bring money to our budget. The list goes on, right? So if there is a priority in there, that's above and beyond just doing our mandatory compliance. Those are opportunities to have those conversations, okay? But, so what I'm suggesting that we do, instead of trying to figure out these and whittle these down, is that the whole Geico bundle and save thing, okay? Is put like items together and let us get into those and start building work plans from those that we can bring back to council and make sure that we're capturing the stuff that you want us to capture. You have a committee here, I'm sure there's another committee or two somewhere that is anxiously engaged to help you identify priorities to move forward. So, looking at your sheet of paper, what I'm proposing is downtown revitalization, and by doing that, okay, you take care of all of these. You take care of that. You take care of this. This. You take care of this. Let's see, B. Yeah. No, okay. And then, yeah. Okay. Economic, then the next one, economic growth and jobs. Okay, well, obviously, that takes care of this whole thing. You see where I'm going. Okay, I'll spare you the mundaneness of going through that exercise. The ones that kind of stand out by themselves, but again, I think that's okay, in my opinion, in my experience. Actually, let me back up. Using the similar concept that you see here with some of these other categories. Yeah, not specifically returning to this one, that one. And that one. I'm suggesting we do something similar. And while I did say a couple times that I don't think I have much money, I'm a firm believer that sometimes you have to spend money to make money. Okay, if it's smart. And preparing us to have a plan to go forward. So just like these, I think when we look at Parks and Rec, Parks and Quality of Life, which is over here. If you look at all of these, there's a lot of different issues there. There's a lot of new, there's a lot of old, there's a lot of funding questions, there's a lot of specifics to some very, very important amenities that you already have. And I know from watching the developments workshops that you all had last year, that there was talk about, you know, okay, expanding and you know, building, you know, new quality neighborhoods and everything. But there was concerns that was brought up and said, why do we want to add new parks when we can't even take care of our existing parks? Fair question. It's a very fair question, especially when you look at that debt of, 27 million for your existing parks. But I'm here to tell you from experience that the method that you can do to tackle your existing problem, there's several options. And, some of them are up here. Going forward with your new parks, there's all kinds of different options. From design, just also the way that they're built. I'm gonna spill the beans, but, turnkey parks. I don't know if you know what those are. But I guarantee you, I mean, developers and me, we spar sometimes. That's the nature of the dance, right? But we can certainly agree on one thing, that it's cheaper for them to build it than it is me. Okay? And so if we put in the fee program, if we put in the plan, reimbursements and so forth and so on. We can make sure that they're building the park at the right time as opposed to me, when the city builds a park, it's the drawbridge approach. Toll bridge. You're collecting a quarter for every single family permit that goes in. And by the time that subdivision is built and they were expecting their park 8 years ago. You've had to collect money from the next subdivision that, a whole nother 5 blocks over is built. Before you get enough money to build that park for the old one. All the kids that the parents bought in that neighborhood for, so the kids can enjoy the park, have moved on to college. That's a potential reality. So we can explore all those kinds of ways to deal with it. But I guess what I'm getting at is that I would really suggest, and this came up in your conversations, is the Parks Master Plan. And I believe the figure that was thrown out is 200. For those of you not familiar with the Parks Master Plan, it's very similar to either one of these. It's a strategy, it's a roadmap. Now, it's both good, bad, and ugly at times, because I did one where I was before, the last place I was at, and it gave us a great roadmap, but it also quantified the challenge of that roadmap. And it said, okay, to fix all your existing deficiencies, you need $500 million. And I said, okay, well, my impact fee is going to collect 10%. What do I do about the rest? So I hired a new Parks and Rec director and said, fix it. And he's still there and I'm not, so. That's another thing, anyway, I really think that will give a light to the uncertainty there. If nothing else, that gives you a vision to how I need to start planning. And I don't know, for me, tackling problems is nothing new to any of us. And you just have to methodically just say, okay, there's the crest that I gotta get to. I'm gonna work my way up to it one step at a time. But if you don't have a roadmap, it's so much harder. And so, to me, that puts you in place with all the necessary roadmaps. Again, over here, I think you have two, very committed chiefs that are gonna figure a way out how to do this. The public well-being. I think all of those go right in here, which is why I'm suggesting parks and quality of life improvements. Now, one that I skipped over. Well, fiscal revenue, I think that's self-explanatory, right? Fiscal sustainability and revenue. We talked last night about, our policies and procedures, and we're doing new things to make sure that, we can tell everybody that we're, a fiduciary responsible agency and calling on it. We're gonna make sure we provide that. But that's the big one. So that we can do all these things, so that we can do, the training facilities, so that we can do, the park improvements and all those other things. But the other one that got the most votes over here. So that checks off a lot of boxes there. And if we're to do that, it needs to be well thought out and well planned. And the reason I say that is because I'm gonna do this. Bear with me. The same people that are doing this, that, this, this. We'll have to work on this. Yes, ma'am.
I just kind of can't help but believe that managed growth and expansion is a theme that's nicely indirectly related to jobs. With that, aren't they related to each other in that respect?
Remember, Luis is one person and he's got 35.
Oh, I get it. I'm not anticipating
No.
that there's one person for each
But-
team, but it does seem like they integrate.
They absolutely do. There's a lot of crossover, but what I'm suggesting for your consideration. So, is that if this is that important to you, and given that it's, overwhelmingly popular. It's got two versus one, or a half. It deserves its own priority. Because here's the thing, it is economic growth, but I will tell you from my experience. Luis will be in there for the window shopping. With all the kicking of the tires and making things move and the oil changes. This is gonna be planning, public works, utilities, I mean, fire's gonna be in there, police is gonna be in there, parks is gonna be in there. Luis is the guy that knows the list of all the businesses that are gonna come and occupy our plant. He's also gonna be the guy that people are approaching first and say, hey, I wanna come to your community, what do I do? And we've already had this happen, Luis has set up meetings with Cindy and with Sean and, to talk about some of these things. So, yes, he could be the doorman, the concierge. But in terms of doing the actual hard work, it's gonna be these other departments. And that kind of, and this is why I'm suggesting the team to do that, and just again, based on my own practical experience. When we say implement the downtown plan, there's gonna be things that are gonna keep Luis busier than, Jack Rabbit. Same thing down here, obviously, this is his plan. But depending on this stuff, if we're talking infrastructure, guess what? Sean's gonna be real busy. If we're talking about wayfinding signage, we're talking about Cindy's shop, so it varies, but that's why I'm saying that. These people from these different departments are gonna be sprinkled all over here, and so it's gonna be uber critical that we're building very detailed work plans that are flexible, but that have your commitment. And that we have a game plan that we're going forward. Because any changes to that on the spur of the dime, then that causes the engine to just freeze up. Yes,
So question, I put it down on, where it says the first maintenance, and I meant the roads in that one, not the parks. And like you said, on the other point, that's something that we do as a city, like, right, maintain roads, right? So what would that fit in these priorities? Or it's just something that is happening in the background?
well, so that is something, well, it's deferred maintenance for just about anything and everything. Right? Poor Sean is, just sees that number getting bigger and bigger and the contribution getting smaller and smaller. So that's where, unfortunately, the federal and state dollars are being more and more competitive and smaller. So, and we're getting bigger and bigger. And this is, the notorious challenge for cities is that, your size for 1980. Well, 40 years later, you have 20 more miles of roads, you have 30 more miles of sidewalks, more electrical stuff. But your staffing resources and your funding resource is still back to $1980. So that's a challenge, but again, we need to discuss funding options. And how do we do that? But I mean, there's all kinds of creative ways out there, and I know a lot of them, when you say them, people go, ugh. But if you want to do these things, we have to start having these conversations at some point. Just gonna be honest with you, what's that movie, The Right Stuff? You know what makes that project work? Funding. Plain and simple. Okay,
And
yes.
so can I clarify, in essence, number 3 and number 8 are like core values.
Yes.
Those are, I mean, we have other core values, I think we could look at beyond those, but, so we kind of take those out of the mix in terms of,
Well, after you vote.
oh, well, we're gonna have to vote again, I have a sinking feeling. Okay.
Yeah, you get to vote. Now you can do your half or your quarter or whatever.
Do I get to vote? Since cameras are here?
That's what I'm saying. You get
You can vote?
Y'all get free. Is there any more questions or anything like that on this before I ask you to vote again? Okay. All right, go ahead, Gary Ducks. Wait,
How many,
you're voting on just this.
do we have 4?
Three.
You may not.
And
May not.
because it's only 8. I should just go back to 2.
Well, you cross out the 2 value ones, so that.
No, I didn't cross it out yet. I mentioned that they're values. but,
That's right.
yeah. See, I shot myself in the foot there. didn't I?
Okay, there, so.
Yes. And do me a favor, just stick with 2.
You?
3 times 4 is more than there's up there. No, go ahead, keep it out.
Okay, no, we're not.
But I'm trying to save money on dots.
Yeah.
Yeah, take the whole category. It's easy, just one of 8.
Thank you, take care of my heel.
This corresponds to.
I want you
You said that the last one is a value, right?
Yep. Thank you. Which is what I'm doing now. All right, so the tally is 1 for downtown revitalization, 2 for economic growth, 3 for fiscal sustainability. 2 for managed growth, 3 for parks and quality of life, 1 for public safety. This is helpful. This, believe it or not, it may seem like, the elementary school level exercise, but this is rolling your sleeves up and getting dirty for part of the purpose. And I don't need no fancy, whistles and buzzers to tell me that, but I can take this and work with this now. What we'll need to do is come back to you and say, okay, of these, what I'm seeing right here, right now, just on the cuff, is that we do want to have that conversation about that. And we do want to explore new growth opportunities because that ties in with this. We are going to do our housing on it. Glad to see this. And I'll just ask, does this mean that you're interested in this concept over here? Got one shaking in there.
I think down the road for me, like, I think we have to re-implement these other projects, but yes, I am.
Right.
When we get this underway, yes.
Right. Never too early. And so what I see, and one with downtown. So. Not to put you on the spot here, but I'll do it in another official meeting at some point in time. But when we come back and we start looking at those competing resources in terms of staff. Are you in agreement with whatever you missed that new growth and expansion over this?
I don't think we spend nearly $1 million on the downtown plan to not do anything in the downtown.
I'm not suggesting we won't do anything, but I'm just saying that, and here's the reality, okay, that's kind of a loaded question, admittedly. So, let me rephrase. In my professional opinion, the downtown plan will take a while to get off the ground.
Sure.
But there are all those, well, especially, you gotta figure it out. Sort of low lying meatloaf, whatever.
Easy wins.
It's easy way, thank you. So, yeah.
Somebody back first. Easy wins.
Good job.
There you go.
Easy wins. See, we're going old school. There are easy wins here. But in terms of big things for infrastructure and, you know, coordinating with other agencies and stuff like that. That will be better used here than here. But there's still opportunities for easy wins here, so I see that we can work on both of those. And of course, Luis will be busy and helping us do those easy wins, helping us bring businesses to the downtown. And helping us talk about these things here as well. This is brutal. I say that, I'm looking at everyone, oh my God, what is it doing? But, what I think the next step will be is that we'll summarize this. And it won't be immediate, we have to go through the budget process and everything, we have to start, well, the new city manager will have to start talking to your department heads about, hey, what does this look like? Let's look at those 35, 24 other objectives, let's start talking to the community, so. You know, the first part of that work plan that we're gonna be putting together for you is gonna be explore this, work, you know, investigate this, do this, and we'll start then from there building deliverables. I'm sure you've all seen those tasks, you know, charts. You know, but we're too early right now to develop that. We can look at those implementation strategies and goes, okay. You know, the DBA is helping, the Chamber of Commerce is helping, another group is helping, so we're gonna go after this. Okay, you guys, as our partners. You know, the public-private partnership, you know, bring something to us that we can help, you know, facilitate to get in front of council. Okay, so that's how those things develop and evolve over time. But what I would commit to you is that the quarterly report or semi-annual report, maybe to start with, until we start building some real substantive stuff on there. I would, if I were recommending something to you, I would suggest that, you know, my successor would be required to build those. And give that to you as part of their, you know, ongoing responsibility as reporting out. Because even though we're not able to put this in. Well, let me back up. Even though I can't add money to this right now necessarily. We can devote resources to it. And I meant to give you an excerpt of the budget page. I'm sure you've seen it. But it, you know, it has the department at the top, says what its function is, and then it says, here's the goals and objectives that I'm working on for the year. So you can see that these will be called out on the budget, so it's real, it's legit. And that's how the city manager is going to measure how the departments are performing. And then that's how you're measuring how the city manager is performing. Questions?
Are we gonna, in essence, update what's on the city's website with these new themes, flash goals, or how are you looking? at it?
Good, absolutely.
I think we should, because I think since we've gone through this exercise to understand the big rocks, where we are with the major themes and prioritizing those. And the fact that we've identified that they cross-cut various of the old goals. I think this is a cleaner approach, so I
would agree.
if you guys agree, we should just pick the themes, and then, just as you said, some of this is kind of, yeah, that's what we do, period, you know, day in and day out.
Yeah, how many people here working, so something's gotta be done.
Right. So, not to get in the way of the budget, because that's already here, but at some point, I think this needs to come back to council, so. we can
Oh, it absolutely
clear
will.
version.
It
Okay.
absolutely will, because we're gonna work on compiling the votes, even though there's, just 12. But to me, this sends, again, kind of like what I told you when we met with the downtown, steering committee. That document, I can work with it. That piece of paper, I can work with that. And that's what I needed. So thank you. And what I would absolutely suggest that this is kind of the front page for your vision, because this is what you're telling the community we're focusing on. We got 41 things over here that we're gonna be focusing on: economic growth and jobs, fiscal sustainability, and parks and rec, and managed growth, as well as working on our downtown plan that we're sure to tell you. And so the reality is, we got more out of it than going this other conventional route that's currently on your webpage. By doing the bundle and save them. And, since I use sports analogies and stupid commercial analogies, one last analogy. Remember, Gordon Ramsay's Kitchen Nightmares, not Hell's Kitchen, but Kitchen Nightmares, where he goes up to a restaurant and just says, what the hell are you doing? And usually it's because they've overcomplicated things. And they're running out of business because they're paying for stuff they don't use and this, that, and the other thing. And his number one recommendation is simplify. Simplify the menu. Why do we have a Cheesecake Factory menu of 52 pages? This is more of the In-N-Out burger approach. And we do it very well. And focus and become efficient and manageable. And I don't know about anybody else in the room, but I think I can sell this to the team a lot easier than trying to be all over the place and. Well, yeah, I'm doing this, but it's actually kind of like that, and I started out on that, and now I'm over here, so you're under here. That work? Anyway, my job is done.
Yeah, no, that was, thank you, and I think, and also going back to Councilwoman Craig, updating this in the website shows that progression also as these documents are alive, right? They're not just static, that we are involving as council members of the community, so we are updating those things.
You brought up a good point. Can you go back to the very first slide? Come on. I don't know if you did it intentionally. That you put that in a circle. Where I was before, I put them together as a molecule. These are not independent of each other. And this exercise that we just did illustrates that. They're living, breathing type things. You push on one, it has an effect on the other. And that's just like it is with your departments. If I'm pushing on parks, well, not just parks is gonna feel it. Sean and Public Works is gonna feel it. Right? And so it's not by accident, I believe, that this is connected and flows and moves. Because that's what these are, and that's our reality. So to your point, it is a progression. And the good thing about doing this and still having these is that as we're checking off the boxes, hopefully, as quick as we can. Well, then you come back and you add another one. And so while you're not going to be coming back every year and doing this, fun dot exercise, because now you have a foundation. It's like, okay, we finished this, we got this amount of resources and staff now. Do we have any money? Oh, look, we found some money. Now I can go after something that needs money and staff resources. And so it just continues to evolve. Okay. That's how you take those steps up the hill. And like that flag. Okay. Anything else? So I'm very appreciative of your
You
time.
want to give us a little bit of a timeline for budget? Now that we have to.
Before June, end of June.
Are we gonna have, we've had about the series of.
Yes, you're absolutely gonna have a couple of series of meetings, from Janelle and I got through the marathon, and her team and I, and Christina got through the part of reviews.
we have to go back, now that we have more numbers, and we have to go back and say, okay, we need to tweak and cut and do some things here again. But we definitely want to bring to you, succession, presentations, different pieces of the pie. I've already shared with you that unfortunately I'm going to do this on the May 20th council meeting, so that's an opportunity to probably talk about the enterprise fund, which is usually pretty safe. But yeah, we'll get into, as soon as we finalize that, we'll probably put together an outline of what the docket looks like, because staff needs to know that as well as you. Right. Anything else?
Any more comments?
Well, I appreciate you sitting down with me and giving me your time. This is extremely helpful and it may not feel like it, but for me anyway, it was, and I can take this to work with that. Thank you.
No, thank you for doing this.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm adjourning the meeting,
4:43.
4:43.
Look at that. Gone 60 seconds.
Oh, that's good, that's even when the new.